All right, so welcome to the Principles of Food and Beverage Cost Control class. This is a 10-week summer class, okay? Our class, like I said, normally is our semesters are 16 weeks in length. There is no way I could teach this class in 5 weeks. I've tried teaching it in 8 weeks, and even that's a little bit of a stretch. And so we do have the 10 weeks. And so we are doing the 10 weeks. Emily, we're just going to be doing some information right now. You can go back and review the recording if you'd like. Um, so my contact information is here up on the screen if you want to take a picture of it. Um, and let's jump in and find out some more information about cost control class. All right, so our agenda for today is going to include these 5 points. So let's jump right into our attendance policy. If you've had me in another summer class, then you'll know that my attendance policy um, is based on your previous week's assignments that you completed. So if you completed no assignments, then you'll be considered absent for that week. If you have completed some assignments, then that will be considered late, like you came in late to class. But if you complete all the assignments, then it'll be on time present for your attendance for that particular week. Okay. Keep in mind that your attendance is 10% of your final grade. So that's really important. If you don't keep up with assignments, not only will your grade drop because you aren't getting those assignment grades, but your grade will also drop because you're basically not getting accounted for attendance as well. All right, so this is a 10-week course. You're going to um, follow this kind of at your own pace. I'm going to show you some examples of ways that you can make it very similar to as if you were sitting in my class during a 16-week semester. But this first week, it's really important that you start that getting started quiz, okay? And then that introductions discussion for you to be able to introduce yourself to your classmates, them to you, and then also to respond to some of your classmates, kind of facilitate that dialogue. The one thing I'm going to point out is in Canvas, you are going to see proving ground assignments. Okay, those are completely optional, and they do not add to your final exam, your final grade. They don't add or take away from your final grade. Okay, so I would recommend that you do all of your required coursework first before you do the proving ground assignments. Okay, so if you see that in a week, make sure that you do all your graded stuff first and then do the proving ground. If you don't get to it and you don't do it, like I said, it does not count against your final average. So the other thing, I don't think I have it on here, is, yep, I don't, sorry. Um, Monday at 8 a.m. is when all of your assignments are going to be due, except for this getting started quiz. It's a little bit different. But Mondays at 8 a.m. is my due date for my classes. The way I look at it is if your previous classes, you've probably had homework assignments that are due at 11:59 p.m. by the end of the day. I can guarantee you that I am not awake at 11:59 p.m. ready to grade your assignments. Okay. Having been a student myself, I've recently finished my master's degree. I was 2018 to 2020. And I'm currently in my doctoral program for my doctorate degree. So, having been a student myself again, I realized that sometimes you have to stay up till 2 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning and do your homework, or wake up early in the morning at 5 o'clock to get your homework done. Okay. I get it. That's how we just have to manage our time. So, by having all of your work turned in at 8 a.m. on Monday, it's like the new start of our week. Everything from the previous week is due by the time we start our new work week, our new class week. Okay. So that's why I set my due time at 8 a.m. on Monday mornings. There is an extra credit opportunity. If you volunteer, we have a conference from June 19th to the 21st. Okay. Chef Munoz is coordinating all of that. So I'm not quite sure what the needs are for volunteers. I do know that there are some specific needs to be in the labs to kind of help with cleanup and help these high school teachers find different pots and pans or find different equipment. So we will have some hands-on lecture or hands-on lab type stuff that the teachers will be doing. This is a conference for the Texas Restaurant Association that they put on each year, and they basically are teaching high school teachers more advanced skills to then eventually go back and teach the high school students those skills. So it's kind of like a professional development in service for those high school teachers that are teaching culinary arts. Um, if you do volunteer, your extra credit will be 2 points added onto your final average. So let's say after everything is all said and done, you have an 88, and then you send me a message that you volunteered for this conference, then I'll add 2 points to that, which will bump you up to a 90. Okay. Any questions about this volunteer opportunity?
Do we have to participate all 3 days
No,
or?
just at least once.
Okay, thank
I do know that June 19th is a school holiday. So that is Juneteenth. So that is an official holiday. So if you want to take that holiday off because you don't have classes, that's totally fine. And you want to help on the 20th and 21st, or that'd be great too. Okay. All right. So I mentioned previously that there's going to be an opportunity for you to kind of get as close to an experience of me teaching live as possible. And that's through these in class discussion notes. One of my biggest hesitations about doing this class 100% online is the fact that it is very math heavy. And I've noticed that a lot of students lately have some hesitation or anxiety towards math. Um, this is an applied math class. So we are going to be using, we're going to know what we are, let me see how I want to phrase this. In the applied math, we know what we are working with, okay, versus a theoretical math like algebra where you're solving for x. Well, we don't know what x is. Um, but in this case, we know what we're actually going to be doing. Most of it's going to be dealing with food, okay? Um, so every chapter has a notes page that I would give out to my students in class, okay? So let me show you where that is. All right, so let's go to student view. So for example, right here in module 1, we have our in-class discussion notes page, okay? Now, some of this information will actually be covered in chapter 1, lesson 1, and chapter 1, lesson 2. Hold on one second, I notice I don't see chapter 1, lesson 1. Let me make a note to add that. Um, some of the information might be included in there, but the other thing you can do is scroll all the way down. And here is my spring 2025 live recorded lectures. So if you click on this chapter 1 on January 29th, 2025, if you click on that and you have this in-class discussion notes page also available, like pull it up on Word and have the video going. You can fill out this form, this notes page, while you listen to my live lecture. Okay. So that lecture is these lectures for chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are exactly what I teach live in class. And so you can just follow along. With that being said, when you do complete those, and then you can turn that in here to this extra credit assignment, you can just upload your completed document. I'm going to give you 0.25 points per chapter. Okay. So we have 10 chapters in our book, 10 chapters times 0.25 each. That's a total maximum of 2.5 points added to your final average. So again, if you have an 88 or you have a 78 and you have turned in every single one of these chapter extra credits, then I can bump you up to an 80 or I can bump you up to a 90. Okay. This extra credit is not designed to make you go from a C to an A. Okay. That's not going to happen. It's just to give you that little bit extra push that you need to get to that next grade level if you need it. Okay. Um, so real quick, since I do have, oh, let me go back to make sure I'm on my agenda. Okay. For your final exam, there are 2 reviews for your final exam on Canvas. There's review 1, review 2. Okay. Taking those 2 reviews, I'm going to average your 2 grades together, and that will be your final exam. Okay, your final exam will essentially be online by taking those 2 reviews. Okay, now in this book, Tarika, this might be different from what the last class that you were listening to, but in this book, you're going to have a Scantron that says manage first, like this. Okay, your book should come with a Scantron that looks just like this. Okay. Um, this is what you need to take that certificate of completion class in person. Okay. So your final exam, everyone's going to take it online. The certificate of completion exam will be happening here in person. I'll keep you posted on when those dates and times are. Okay. You need that Scantron from the book. And it's important that you have completed the final exam reviews before you come in and take that exam, because those reviews will help prepare you for the certificate exam. Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns?
So the for the certificate, we have to do this or we don't have to do it.
It is optional, but you're taking the final exam anyways, those 2 reviews. So you're basically preparing for the certificate exam. It is optional. It's not going to help or decrease your final average grade. Um, Basically, what will happen is that you will get a certificate of completion for controlling food service costs by the National Restaurant Association. So this is something you can absolutely add to your resume. It's not a certification like safe food handling that has to be renewed every 5 years. This is just a one and done certificate of completion. But you do have, I mean, it is something that you can add to your resume if you would like.
Oh, thank you. That sounds great. I will do that.
Excellent. All right. So, real quick question and answers. Any questions so far? I think one thing that I forgot to mention is my office hours. So Tuesdays from 2 to 3 and Wednesdays from 9 to 10. I will be in my office hour, like here in my office, but I will also be on Zoom. So if you don't want to come into campus, you can log into Zoom during these 2 hours. If these hours don't work for you and you need to schedule a meeting outside those hours, please let me know. Give me at least 48 hours. I would love at least a week's notice, but at least 48 hours notice would be great. There are some times where I am not going to be available to jump onto Zoom, um, but I will do my absolute best. I envision quite a few of you logging into my office hours once the project gets started, because there's going to be there's usually a lot of questions about the project. Okay. Um, so my office hours are here. I will post the recording of this also in this module as the PM. If you want to go back and watch the morning one, maybe there was something I said differently, but I don't think so. But if you want to watch the morning one, that's available as I'll post that one as well. This BHMS is that information session that I mentioned in an announcement. So BHMS is the Business and Hospitality Management um, school that is in Lucerne, Switzerland. And we have entered into a partnership with them which allows you as St. Philip's College graduates to go over to Lucerne, Switzerland and get a bachelor's degree in culinary or baking or management, hospitality management in 1 year. And to earn that bachelor's degree and live over there for a year, do an internship for 6 months as part of that time, and then come home. So that's an information session that we recorded this morning, so you're welcome to watch that as if you would like it as well. There are quite a few of names that I don't recognize. Um, so this is probably a little bit late, but I'll also introduce myself in the introductions. But I have been teaching at St. Philip's College for 10 years. This is my 10th year teaching. I was a graduate of St. Philip's College in 2009 and 2011. Um, and then since returning to St. Philip's, during that time I was working in a variety of capacities. If you watch the live lectures, you'll notice that a lot of times I refer to a summer camp up in Maine called the Acadia Institute of Oceanography. I spent 7 summers up there. I was the summer camp cook, so I prepared breakfast and dinner for 50 to 60 people a day. Um, and a big part of my job was menu planning, ordering the food, and managing my budget. Um, and so I talk a lot about that in my live lectures, how I apply the lesson that we were talking about that day to what I did when I was working in Maine. Um, that's kind of the biggest chunk of my experience that deals with actual food budgets and whatnot. Um, so in our last 8 minutes together, I would like to help y'all understand that in this class, we are going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's all we're doing. Okay. We're not doing any kind of trigonometry, cosine, tangent, no graphing. This is literally just adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. Okay. Now, in some cases, there are specific steps that you need to take. And I teach my math from a very step by step process. Okay. Um, so it is beneficial to go back and watch those live recorded lectures because oftentimes I will go step by step. Okay. Um, but let's go ahead and just take a look at some real life examples. Okay. In the last few minutes that we have. So what is 36 divided by 4?
9.
9. Absolutely. So here we go. 9 is the answer. Was that terribly difficult of math? Not
No.
really. Okay. But 9 what? That's the question that we're going to be answering in the form of a word problem. So, how many 4-ounce portions can we get from 36 ounces of salad mix? Okay. So, 36 ounces divided by 4 ounces is going to give me 9 servings. This is going to help me. How?
Because you know how many servants you have.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. If I'm feeding 12 people, then I know if I'm feeding 18 people, I know I need to get 2 36 ounces. I need to order that. So it helps me with my ordering. If I don't know how many I'm serving, then oftentimes I may over order. And we'll talk about that. That's money that's being wasted. Okay. What is 15 minus 13?
2.
Two.
Two. Two what? It's a great question. I'm glad you asked. Okay. If we yield 13 pounds from a 15-pound case of tomatoes, how much product did we lose in the prep? Okay. So if we start with 15 pounds and we're asking if we yield 13, that means we have 13 pounds left over. We lost 2 pounds. Okay. So we're making tomato concasse. We core the tomato. We drop it in the boiling water. Pick it up. We take the skin off. We take the seeds out. All of that, the core, the skin, the seeds, all of that weighs something. And we pay for the tomato by the total weight. So if I don't actually get to use all of that tomato, then I may not order enough, which means I'm not going to have enough sauce left over to serve my guests, right? So this is really important as to why we are, and you're going to see this in our as purchased, yield percentage, and yield edible yield section of the class. Okay, as purchase is how much product we purchase. The edible yield is how much is left over, the 13 pounds. And this percentage is going to give us a good percentage number to figure out how much is left over. Okay. One last thing in our last 4 minutes. If you want to, you can go to the day one video um, in that spring 2025 recorded lectures. If you go to the day one video, that's going to include all of those day one math problems in that presentation. So you can kind of get a better idea if you'd like to go back and watch that. Um, one last thing I want to mention, and I want to kind of talk you through, is not that. If you do have a piece of paper to write something on, I would recommend that you write this down. Okay. This is a tool that really helps students navigate and understand three different mathematic formulas, okay, or equations. So we have yield percentage, or not yield percentage, sorry. You can do it for yield percentage, but I'm going to do food cost first. Food cost percentage, we can do the food cost, and then we have the selling price. Okay. This horizontal line that goes across acts like division, and then the vertical line acts like multiplication. Okay. So if we wanted to manipulate this triangle, basically we have food cost, we cover up what's left or what's there, and then whatever's left over is our formula. So it's our food cost percentage times our selling price. So if you want to find out what your food cost is, this is the formula. If you want to figure out what your food cost percentage is, you cover that up, and whatever's left over is the food cost divided by the selling price. Okay, and then the last one in our last minute is our selling price is equal to our food cost divided by the percentage. Why do you think it's important to know this formula right here? Selling price equals food cost divided by percentage. Any thoughts?
Just so we make sure we're selling it for the enough money to cover our cost.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's important about that is you have to know what your food cost is. You have to know how much it costs you to make a recipe, to make a portion before you can determine how much you should sell it for. I had a student who did his internship at a little independent restaurant in Fredericksburg about 3 summers ago, and they did not have any recipes written down. They didn't have any food cost at all. And so his project for his practicum, his internship was really just to create standardized recipes, cost them all out, and then actually determine an appropriate selling price. So as you all, as students, you're getting a little bit ahead of the game because there's people who own restaurants or who are managers of restaurants that have just worked their way up. They don't understand the theory behind what needs to happen. And so this class, we're going to teach you a lot of the things about the theory, about why we do things the way we do to control our costs so that we can make more money. All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns before we end this Zoom?
I have a question.
Yep.
I noticed a class popped up on my Canvas today. It's COSC 1301. Is that part of taking your class, like the math course?
No, COSC 1301 is a computer class.
Oh,
So that is definitely not part of mine, but it's a completely different class.
okay.
Um, Completely different class, but you will see, thank you for bringing that up. You will
Uh-huh.
see a math class, MATH. You should see a MATH class. That is your math bridge. So if you have already taken math bridge as part of basic food prep, or if you're exempt because you've taken college algebra, they will let me know all that information. But if you have not done that in those previous times, then you will need to take math bridge, and I'll address that as we get a little bit closer to when that's due.
Okay.
So, all right. Any questions, comments, or concerns?